And I left the startup eventually. I had a big burnout. I really felt depleted and exhausted and not capable of doing anything anymore. And then I decided that I want to do something I really want to do. And I took this idea ahead of Shadowmap and I started working on it. And here we are now. Yeah.
Why knowledge matters. Welcome. I'm Yannick, your host, and now joining me, founder and CEO of Shadowmap Technology from Vienna, Austria, Georg Molzer. Georg, I'm so thrilled to have you here on the show. You have really done something. I'm extremely impressed, and I'm sure also our listeners will be impressed. Welcome, Georg.
Hi, Yannick. Thank you very much for having me.
You have a lot to talk, and therefore, first, let's just introduce to our listeners and viewers what Shadowmap is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually quite easy. The big vision is to create an interface, a digital interface to the sun that works globally and is really easy and fun to use. More practically, at the moment, you can imagine it like Google Earth with a time model and a sun model that allows you to visualize solar shadows anywhere on the planet. So doesn't matter if it's just hot and you're looking for a shady spot to relax, or whether you are buying a house or some land and you want to check out throughout the year how the light situation is there, like how the surrounding environment casts shadows to this place, but also for solar panels, like to find the spot where you can mount the panel most efficiently, or urban gardening. Like the more you think about that, you realize how many factors the sun influences in our lives. It's actually basically everything. There wouldn't be life on Earth without the sun. And we want to help to make better decisions when it is about the sun, to integrate the sun into your professional and private lives and plan with it. And this is why we are building Shadowmap. Yeah.
It's so relevant, really. It's really of helping to build a better, more sustainable world for our environment and also, of course, for humans. And I love the slogan that you believe in a world that runs on the sun, how powerful this is. But now let's go back a little bit to your childhood, because it's very interesting. And it's always, when we look back, then ultimately we are able to connect the dots, right? As Steve Jobs so nicely put it. And you are really also a visionary. As you just said, you have a vision and you're truly a visionary, and building the tools for people to really build a better world. So let's walk us through your childhood.
Yeah, I was born in Vienna, in Austria, but my parents, I had two siblings, and it was too many siblings then to keep living in this small apartment. So they decided to move to Bad Vöslau. It's a little town about 40 kilometers from Vienna. And we had a house there, like a new built one. It took quite long to finish the construction. And I grew up there. I think I had a really good childhood. So I had a very nice kindergarten teacher, and I was always very creative. I loved to construct things, to build things. I had a special rule with my kindergarten teacher, because normally you were supposed to disassemble whatever you did in kindergarten, and the next day you needed to start from scratch. I was the only one who was allowed to keep whatever I was doing and could continue the next days. I think that was quite funny, and I'm really happy about my kindergarten teacher. I really loved her a lot. And yeah, I'm sometimes thinking about my childhood, and I remember now even better than years ago how I was a very sensitive child, and I always saw like so much suffering and pain around me, and I wanted to help. Like this was very deep in me. And I remember an occasion where I was buying groceries with my mom, and there was a man, and he he had some illness, and he also looked very poor, and he couldn't walk properly. And I just saw him, and I felt really sad. I had tears in my eyes, and I thought, hey, Mom, like we should bring him home and help him. Like this was so in me and so natural in me. And of course, I mean, I didn't know how the world runs, you know, back then. And my mom, of course, she couldn't just take this random person home and help him. But this was, I think this is a core component in me, that I want to solve problems. I see problems because I'm sensitive, and I want to solve them. And I think I have the capabilities to do that. And it's like really a big factor throughout my life, that I just want to use my engineering skills to improve situations. Until now, actually. And then I mean, I was always interested in computers, in technology. When people asked me what I want to become, I always said, like I seriously said, either a beggar or an inventor. And yeah, people were laughing because they said like that's a perfect fit in a way. So yeah, I love being creative. I love to create stuff. And this is also why I think being an entrepreneur is really in my blood, and I want to be as free as possible while creating. I think it's important to have a free spirit, free mind in the process, free heart as well. Yeah, and then I studied computer science. It's actually computer graphics, what I studied. And it took me a long time because I was always working next to it. I also had I co-founded another startup in the health tech sector. I left the startup, then I had a big burnout, like a heavy burnout. And Shadowmap, actually, the idea I had about 10.5 years ago in a Viennese winter. I can maybe tell later a little bit more about that. But then like 2015, I joined another startup as a CTO. And I left the startup eventually. I had a big burnout. I really felt depleted and exhausted and not capable of doing anything anymore. And then I decided that I want to do something I really want to do. And I took this idea I had of Shadowmap, and I started working on it. And here we are now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So walk us through, when and how you came up with the idea of Shadowmap, because it's so relevant, like as you said also on the website, its application is so wide ranging, right? From real estate agents, from people who want to buy something, or for professionals who want to create, something. So walk us through, please.
Yeah, I mean, a big component you didn't mention is health. So the health benefits of sunlight on humans, it's actually a huge topic, and it feels like it's getting more and more discovered. So that's why I'm telling this, is because like 10.5 years ago, it was a winter in Vienna, and Viennese winters are very dark. So we don't have much sunlight. It's always foggy, and also the buildings are rather high. The streets are narrow. So the sun is always blocked. It's like there's shadow. That's why it's called Shadowmap. And I just thought, hey, it would be cool to have an app where I can see, at least at noon, where the sun is at its highest point, where I can find some sun in the city. And I just thought, hey, I mean, this can be done. Like you have the 3D data of cities, you can have a solar model, and you just combine everything, and then you can visualize the sun and shade situation anywhere in the world, basically. And this was my original idea. And like maybe you have this as well, like a notebook where you put down these ideas, and then some years later you browse through it. And like this idea never really, it always stayed with me. Like I always was thinking about it. And like at some point you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this now. I don't wait for someone else to do it. I'm just going to do it myself. And yeah, I also took the chance to finish my master's degree at Vienna Technical University with this topic. I found a good supervisor, Florian Ledermann, who supported me with this, and really everything kind of aligned in a way that I could start doing this. I got a scholarship. At the first time in my life, I could concentrate on my studies, because before that I always had to work. I was always working to earn money, and this was the first time that I could just let go. I also traveled to Southeast Asia for 9 months, and I yeah, I dived into a lot of spirituality, healing, yoga, breath work, meditation, gongs, surfing, and whenever I did not do that stuff, I was coding Shadowmap, and I came back with a quite cool prototype, and I had a late co-founder then as well, and we launched this in May, like 2 years ago in May, we launched it, and it resonated well. So people love it, and they use it for the craziest use cases you can imagine. But of course, like we are a business, we need to find our niches and step by step develop the business. And at the moment, we are focusing on real estate. But I'm really mixing up topics a lot here, so please
No, it's
just
fantastic because I
stop.
love it, because also it's a really interesting actually fact too, because you said like how important the sun is for our
Mm.
health, right? But you actually also went through some big challenges when it comes to the sun. So you were affected in a sense negatively by the sun, you know?
Yeah, by the lack of it. I was affected by the lack of the sun. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I really, this was my intention to build it and to make it easily accessible. And it's also like still our vision to have the core product free. So if you're like anywhere in the world for the current day, you can always use Shadowmap to find the sun. We also have this slogan, helping humans find the sun. Um, and this is always freely accessible. And on top of that, we are building special tools and features and yeah, to also earn money. And the next big milestone is going to be analytics. So you will be able to use Shadowmap to get out like really hard numbers. For example, the solar yield on arbitrary 3D surfaces. Maybe you want to install a solar panel on your roof and you want to really know how much energy you can produce there. And we always like try to incorporate reality as good as possible to give you like a solid basis for decisions.
How did your health challenge impact the journey of Shadowmap? You know, you mentioned you had
Mm.
the depression.
Mm. Yeah, I was burned out. I I think as an entrepreneur, actually as a general human being, if you're not aligned, if you're not acting according to your inner alignment, you burn out. It's not even about like if it's too much work or whatever. It's about whether it's aligned with your true self. And if you if you get the chance to work on something that really helps to solve a problem you have within you, then it's a big driver. It gives you a lot of energy and a lot of power to really go that path, go that route, and pull it through. Because I mean, this entrepreneurial journey, it's hard, it's heavy, it's really a roller coaster. Like all these phrases are true, and you can reach low lows, but you can also reach high highs, and it's a lot about realizing that the power you have, but also the responsibilities you have. It's even getting more complicated if you have employees, and we now have employees. So like it's a challenge if you want to do it authentically, and you have some values. It's quite a challenge, and also it's a challenge not to get hard, like cynical and too hard, because I really understand. I was always complaining when I was young about other people and how they act and stuff. And now I understand like how you can end up there, like how you can become cynical and very hard and rude to your employees, for example, because it's tricky. And if you want to stay open, you need to really reflect a lot, talk a lot, always like look at yourself, how you are affecting the situation. Yeah, it's exciting. It's actually a very rewarding journey, and you just need to take care of your energies.
Yeah, it's inspiring because it's really all about alignment, right? To live a magnificent life is really to bring your mind, your heart really in alignment with one another, right? And what you're doing here is it's basically the same, but at the business level, right? And
Mm.
bringing your alignment, as you said, because then you're really able to ultimately to cut off like getting burned out, for example, which is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
easy, and we usually attribute it to too much work, right? But as
Mm.
you just said, it's not, you're not burning out because of too much work, but because of a lack of alignment with your inner
Yes.
world and your outer world. That's so beautiful put.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm just confirming what I just said myself. No, but it's really important to have a. I mean, I think it's a huge process also to even understand what your alignment even is, and also be open about it and talk about it. And then also, in the best case, attract people which are aligned to you and to your mission and to your vision. So there's no benefit in tweaking these things. Like it just needs to be very true, because if it's not true, it eventually will surface, and then you will have the cracks again and the fights again. So yeah, I also take the chance. I'm looking for people who want to join this journey and who want to work on Shadowmap. We are looking really in every department for we're looking for marketers, salespeople, developers, also operations. I would love to have like a really good person in operations to help me. Like really, it's so much work. And if this resonates with any one of your audiences, would be cool to join forces.
Georg, it's so fascinating. And one question I have, what was harder for you? The personal development or the personal work that you have to undergo, or the business development and work, as you said, because it is as much as, the business side you have to develop, but also on the other hand, it's also the personal development you underwent, right? You just said, how hard it actually is when you were younger, right? It was very easy to criticize, but now you are in this position as a CEO and founder. How is it? Just walk us a little bit through and give our listeners a sense, how this is and what this actually means, also from a personal level.
Hey, that's a really good question. I think this is very much intertwined. Is this the correct English word? Like your personal development and the development of your business, it's really like a reflection of your personality. And the good thing is you can just choose where you want to work at the moment. You can choose to work on yourself. You can choose to work on your business. Everything is going to benefit from it. I wanted to say something, but now I forgot it. I think it was important. Yeah, no, that's exactly. It's so much about empowering yourself or getting empowered. And I think this was a huge transition for me. I remember some years ago, actually on my trip in Southeast Asia, when I started working on Shadowmap, I was listening to a lot of really cool podcasts and people talking, and they gave me different perspectives. I used to be more of a victim, you could say. Like I was blaming other people. I always thought, okay, I'm powerless. I can't do anything about these big things. And this has really changed. Like I now know that it's all about how I tackle situations and choosing my battles, and also focusing on where I put my energy and my work in. And I have a lot of, like everybody has this. Every human being has this. And I think it's very beautiful if people unlock this perspective in other people and make them realize how powerful they actually are, and get rid of the victim role, because this does not have any benefits, like nothing. It's really about scoping your radius where you want to change or transform, and then doing it. And then you can increase this radius. You cannot change governments from one day to the other. That's not how it works. But you can start to change your life. You can start to change the way you earn money, or how you work with other people, or what you do in your spare time. Like that's your influence. That's the stuff you can improve. And I think this entrepreneurial journey was a big benefit for my life, for my personal development, to take responsibility as well. It's super important to be responsible for your actions and learn from them, and take them as a vector to improve, like to see the pain. I mean, I think pain is also, it's a huge support act in a life, whether it's physical pain or mental pain. If you are courageous enough and brave enough to look at this pain and see it as a sign that tells you where you should change stuff. Of course, it takes courage and it takes a little base energy, but this momentum then is cool because you see, okay, if I focus on that pain and I fix it, my life suddenly starts to become better. I'm having more fruitful connections. My creativity is flourishing. Like, to see it this way and productively and courageously work on that it's amazing. It's a positive feedback loop.
You remind me on the quote of Les Brown, who says, it's common sense, but not common practice. It's like going to the gym, right? If you want to build your muscles up, right? You know, it hurts, there's pain, but there's ultimately the reward, right? And this delayed gratification, which is so powerful. And I think you're just such a great testimony. It also takes a lot of courage to actually say, hey, I was in the victim role, right? And now you're really this upcoming, personality entrepreneur, which is so relevant. And also just the fact that you were able to actually raise 1 million of funding, it speaks a lot. And walk us a little bit through about this journey, and how also difficult it was or not.
It's really fascinating somehow. So I told you before that I was late co-founder, CTO with another startup. This was my first time in the Austrian startup scene. So you get to know like most of the people there, the investors, all the different stakeholders. And this startup was heavy. Like, it was really, personally, it was a crazy journey. Like, it was not only lots of work, that was not really the problem, but it was so much misalignment in the team. And it was a huge reality check. And when I left it, I really thought, hey, like, what the heck is going on? Like, my whole career, like, I always wanted to create great products and be true, like the most truthful as I can. And still it goes to ashes. Is this the right phrase? So it was damaged in the core, and it made me really sad. Like, I was really desperate. And I got to know a quite famous investor there. And the relationship wasn't so good because I was also disappointed in him, that he didn't see the flaws and help me, because I was always trying to fix it, but I was alone. Like, everybody was speaking against me, and this was disappointing to me. So then I left and I started working on Shadowmap. And when we launched the prototype, it's on a platform called Product Hunt. We launched it there, and it's an American one, US American one. And it resonated much, and it also resonated in the Austrian startup sphere. And I approached some investors, some investors approached me, and I pitched the vision and what we currently have. And I remember I had a great call with Michael Ströck, who is also like a very interesting person in my life. And he liked the idea, like, he really saw the potential. And then I had a call with his managing partner, Luciano Spolagnoli, who was also supportive. And like, I had this phase then that I wasn't sure whether I should get investors on board, because I mean, obviously you're not as free if you have investors on board. It's like, it's unpredictable. It can go sideways, it can go any direction. You have no idea. And it's a huge decision because that's your baby, and you have some ideas about it, how you want to build it, and you don't want to be an employee basically who's going to do stuff what the investors tell you. So I was a little bit afraid of going the investors route. And I was then invited to a summer party hosted by this investor, and they were really, really nice to me. And it just felt so special, like, to have this idea and to become invited and have these powerful people really being very supportive. And it's like, so is this maybe too good to be true? what's going on? And I still was not fully sure, but then I had like, I was standing next to Michi Ströck. He was the investor I first had the call with, and another guy, wait, what was his name again? Andreas Klinger. He's like a really successful Austrian entrepreneur, and I was standing with those two guys, and I just asked the questions. So I mean, you have achieved so much in your life, like they are financially very well set, yeah. And I wasn't. I'm still not. My company is, but I am not yet. I'm working on it. And I asked them, so you've achieved so much. What's still left in the life for you? And Michi Ströck, he just turns a little sideways. And I'm not gonna tell everything he said in that moment, but it ended up that we had a long talk about spirituality and Ramdas and also psychedelics. And this was such a great conversation. And I would have really never in my life would have thought that I could have such conversations in such a circle. For me, this was a different world, you know, like you have investors world, you have the money world, and you have spirituality on the other side. And to have this somehow interlinked was very new to me. And I took this really as a sign that I should be courageous and just go that route. And I can say that from that time on, I really got so much support and understanding, and I didn't feel any negative pressure. And I think this is a huge privilege, and I'm very grateful for that. It's not a given. And yeah, this ended up in us raising a first small round, 100K, and then end of last year we extended and we got some new investors on board, some new angels, and as a total we now have raised 1.11 million euros. And this is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing feeling. Like I remember so vividly how I had the idea, how I started working alone on it, you know, like just figuring things out and trying to get things out there. And then suddenly you have like powerful people backing you. I'm very grateful. And I mean, you know, that we're in the midst of the journey, so we need to raise some more rounds probably. And I just really hope that, similar to how these investors popped up in my life, I mean, of course, you've got to do something for that. But I really hope for aligned VCs and big investors in the future who really understand what we want to do there. I mean, it's a huge task. I see Shadowmap as, you know, like a compass. You use a compass to find north. It's a simple device. Everybody knows it. It's embedded in anything, basically. And I want to turn Shadowmap or evolve Shadowmap into something like a compass that helps you to find north. Shadowmap will be the go-to tool for anything regarding sunlight. If you need anything that has to do with sunlight, you will go to Shadowmap. And I think the name will be different in the future. But yeah, right now it's Shadowmap. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, just there's so many ways that this can go. It's just limitless, you know, in my view. When I think about I just scrolled a little bit through your website, you know, and its applicability, you know, basically anywhere, any business, any human being can use it, and in so many different ways. It's
exactly.
mind blowing. So I really love that. Now, where do you see Shadowmap in the next 5 years?
I see it being used, as you said, in many different application scenarios, and I see it as a huge lever in regards to solar energy, and really applying the energy the sun has into various aspects, be it agriculture, be it energy production, be it health, like energy also in a way of making people healthy. So the sun is a huge health beneficial aspect. It's super important to get morning sun on your retinas, on your skin, to kickstart your hormone cycle, to make you sleep better, to make you happy, clean your head. But that's the health aspect, and this affects like 8 billion people on Earth. Like they now realize how depleted many people, even in, you know, like hot cities like Southeast Asian cities, are, because of lots of skyscrapers. They never have direct sunlight, and this really affects people. So Shadowmap will be a very easy tool to just find the right amount of sun and shade. Like it's not good to spend too much time in the sun. Like you shouldn't get sunburned, but you also should not get any sun on your skin. So it's especially in urban areas, it's tricky, and Shadowmap is a huge beneficial tool with this. But as I mentioned before, I think that the next huge thing also within the next years is going to be solar analytics, and with this helping in the energy transition to be powered by the sun. I did some calculations some years ago about how much energy there's actually available, and it's a little bit hypothetical. So just saying, okay, the whole Earth, if you would cover the whole Earth in solar panels, just the amount of energy which passes through the atmosphere and hits the Earth's surface is enough to power 2,000 Earths, like fully inhabited Earth, industrialized Earths with energy, with primary energy. So that's not only electricity, but also mobility and heating. And it just gives you an idea how much energy there is. And at the moment, we source about 2% of one Earth with solar energy. So we could do 130,000 times more with it. It's a huge potential. And, you know, like things like energy scarcity, as we had it in Europe, thinking about freezing in winter, or all the prices going up for everything because energy is so expensive. Like this should not be necessary. Like we could do better. I think as humanity, if we just get our shit together and really support each other, and as I mentioned before, unlock the inner power and creative potential every one of us has, and really doing this together in a supportive way, it can even be fun, you know, can be a joyful process. And having this vision in mind, hey, awesome, like we won't have any gross exhausts anymore. Like I'm riding my bike all the time, so I don't have a car. I always ride my bike, and just what you breathe in with some cars, it's disgusting. Like, I mean, it's like a small factor, but just, you know, like living clean and in sustainability, respect with nature, that's just beautiful. Like there is no disadvantage about that. And I wanna do my part in this transition with Shadowmap, with the company.
I mean, there is really no place, in my view, for pessimism in general, because even the problems we face now, they are scientific problems. There are solutions for all these problems, in my view. And I think you are a great example, you know, and an inspiration for us to truly be optimistic about our future, you know. And that's because it's the science, ultimately, I truly believe, who can bring us there to a sustainable, life-giving future where we can really cherish. Last question, Georg. What makes you feel alive?
I love laughing, so that makes me feel alive. I love to be in nature. Maybe laughing in nature is the best. And I actually surfing in a clean ocean. I had the privilege, like when I did my Southeast Asia trip, when I started working on Shadowmap, I was in Indonesia and often on the Philippines, in Siargao, and I had amazing surf sessions there in beautiful water, and you just feel, I mean, you feel every muscle in your body, and you feel so clean, because you get cleaned by the ocean. I don't know if you've ever surfed, but the water gets pressured in all your body openings, like high pressure when you wipe out. So it really cleans you, and it really makes you happy. And the energy you have when you're surfing, it's amazing. Like actually surfing makes me feel alive, and it reminds me that I haven't been surfing for 4 years now, due to lack of money and lockdowns and everything, and also a lot of work with Shadowmap. So I'm really looking forward to go surfing again in the hopefully near future.
Never afraid that a shark will attack you? Be honest, frankly speaking, never.
No, actually not. I'm not afraid. I also have not been surfing in like shark-infested waters yet. So I think on the Philippines there was a spot where they might have sharks. It was really far out, and the ocean had a different energy. It was extremely dark blue. It had a different vibe. It felt very violent and strong. It was Like I had a little fear inside of me all the time, but then when you overcome that fear, it always feels amazing, you know. Like I think fear is also a great compass that shows you where you should go. Like if you have a little fear, just go there and explore it and overcome it, and you will come back happier and stronger. And yeah, as I said, feel more alive.
Georg Molzer, thank you so much for this great conversation. I truly loved it, and I will put the link below that people can actually discover, also buy your products, because they're
Cool.
already available. You have an app, and thank you so much for being on the show. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Georg Molzer. That's why knowledge matters.